Welcome. We've been expecting you. You are about to embark on a fantastic adventure, a quest for 12 treasures, over $10,000 in precious jewels. They may be hidden in your city or your local park or even in your own backyard. You might even figure out one of their hiding places without leaving your house. You are about to learn the answer to an age-old mystery. Whatever happened to the fair people, the goblins, dragons, fairies, leprechauns, and other fantastic creatures of the old world? You are about to meet their descendants for the first time. You will see the creatures who are really responsible for all the unexplainable things that happen to you, from the master demon who makes sure you get the table near the kitchen, to the screaming Mimi who loves the sound of a baby crying in your ear. Plus, you'll have a chance to send in your own sightings of fantastic creatures. The Secret 8 Treasure Hunt, a mythology for the modern world. You are cordially invited to participate.
A reading of The Secret, a treasure hunt, created by developer and editor Byron Price, authors Sean Kelly and Ted Mann, sculptress Jo Ellen Trilling, illustrators John Jude Palancar, John Pirard, and Overton Lloyd, photographer Ben Asson, and designer Alex J. Get your copy and join the hunt. This book is dedicated to Alexander Ginsberg, Yuri Orlov, Anatoly Sharansky, Andrei Sakharov, Viktor Nikiforov, George Vladimov, and all the other voices of freedom in the Soviet darkness. The Secret, a Bantam book, November 1982. Contents: Page 6, The Tale Simply Told. Page 9, The Passage to the New World, in which the reader meets the fair people and learns of their immigration. Page 19, The Litany of the Jewels, in which the reader discovers the nature of the fair people's treasures. Page 22, The Vanishing, in which the fate of the fair people and their treasures is revealed. Page 33, The Treasure, in which the clues to the treasures are given in painting and verse. Page 55, A Field Guide to the Fair People of the New World, in which the reader meets the descendants of the fair people. Page 216, Your Sightings, in which the readers are invited to submit their own sightings of the fair people. Page 219, Your Search for the Treasures, in which your discoveries may be recorded and conveyed. Page 221, Origins and Whereabouts of the Fair People. Page 223, Personae, in which blame is attributed. The Tale Simply Told. A long, long time ago, before the age when man and woman sailed in ships to lands they had never seen, there existed in the old world two empires, that of man and that of the fair people. Man named his abode civilization, for man was an acquisitive creature and names were things he could possess. He could not fly on wings of gossamer, like a fairy, nor hide in the gentle slope of a mountain, like a giant, nor throw fire through a gust of wind, like a dragon. So man often found his strength in words. The fair people had no cities or towns or houses. Their home was nature, and in it they could play or hide or make themselves unseen to man, who feared nature, for he could not control it. What man could not control, he often sought to change. Thus, over centuries, man built his cities and his villages and diminished the fair people's domain. Where once lived a goblin, there rose a tavern. Where once swam a river maiden, a water wheel spun. Forest to lumber, earth to road. Man expanded his empire, and the fair people were threatened. From England to Cathay, from Bristol to Bombay, there came a call from the fair people for a new home, untrammeled by civilization. Representatives of the fair people of the old world were sent to seek it: elves, fairies, sprites, Feletti, Dwend. From 13 lands they departed the old world to find a new one. And they did. You are about to read of the fantastic passage of the fair people, who, like man, arrived on the shores of the new world with dreams of freedom and contentment. You are about to learn of their wonder stones, the 12 treasures brought with them in their passage to the newfound land: diamond, ruby, pearl, amethyst, emerald, sapphire, peridot, garnet, topaz, and aquamarine. And you will discover what happened when the fair people found man of the New World, who shared their deep love for nature. Best of all, you will learn of your role in the fair people's story and the significance of the quest for their treasure in the relationship between man and the fair people across North America. 12 treasures are waiting. The key to each requires the proper combination of one treasure painting with one treasure verse. You need only decipher the clues in any pair to learn the location of a treasure cask. In each cask waits a key. The return of the key will gain its treasure for you. If you are unable to retrieve the cask, but believe you have determined its site, you may acquire its treasure by successfully completing the form in the back of the book with a precise description and explanation of your discovery. Any successful discovery of a treasure will be described in the next edition of The Secret. Finally, you will meet many of the modern descendants of the fair people who arrived on America's shores. You are cordially invited to inform us, in words or pictures, of your own sightings of fair people as yet unseen for inclusion in the next edition of The Secret. This is our story, simply told. The mystery is yours to unravel. The passage to the New World. The northern seas are cold and cruel grey. Across them sailed the fair tall elven folk. Southward the seas are blue, serene and warm from that soft mist, with many a merry joke. Sweet spirits came from west at close of day, beneath sails brilliant as a peacock's fan. Ginny arrived from sunrise and through storm. Across the eastern ocean last came man. The map and its migrants one from Scandinavia, elves, trolls, Grimms, Nissen and Tomsny. 2 from Russia, Tartary, Poland and Hungary, Vasily, Leshy, Poleviki, Demivi, Vli, Raskolki. 3 from Germany, dwarves, Witchel, Hilchen, Rhine maidens. 4 from Scotland, people o' peace, Troes, brownies, silkies, kelpies. 5 from Ireland, Cid, leprechauns, ferdarigs. 6 from England, fairies, pixies, hobgoblins, boggarts. 7 from the lowlands, Normandy and Brittany, Ulven, Claboutermen, Nikins, gnomes. 8 from Aquitaine, Corrids, Lutin, Dames Blanches, Loopgarou. 9 from Crete and Hellas, centaurs, nymphs, satyrs. 10 from Iberia, Hoddes, Dwend. 11 from Italy, Sicily and Sardinia, Folletti, Forfarelli, Solvani, Agwin, Lincetti. 12 from Persia and the Red Sea, Jinn, Peri, Deves. 13 from Africa, Tree Fairies, not shown, Prince Yi. Shi Wong Mu, Shinsin and the Dragon.
Not so awfully long ago, as the stars who created time tell it, the fair people withdrew from the old world, which they called the Middle Kingdom, migrating across the ocean sea to dwell in the hills and forests of the newfound land. The first to set foot on its shore, if he said so himself in the saga he often sang, was Ruddy Alf, a copper-haired sea troll of Nordland. It was he bragged, who left Scandia to brave alone the teeth of the hellhounds at sheer cliff's lip of the flat earth's edge. He the hero who pressed a single print from his reindeer hide boots on the beach there, and he who came back to harp on it, next, or simultaneously, or to hear his kin and clan tell of it, years and years before, was Brandon, a leprechaun from Kerry, who zigzagged all the way from the tip of the dingle to the brave new world in a sealskin canoe, with naught but potting for provender. But most of the fair people deemed the exploits of Alf and Brandon to be mere myth, even legends, it seems, looked down on legends, and attributed the discovery of the newfound land to the Italian fairy Colin Savanelli, an intrepidly nautical falletto out of Genoa. Savanelli had been commissioned by the Queen of the Iberian Hadas, that is, the Spanish Fays, to seek the fabulous Spice Islands, once found, She hoped that they would become a foster homeland for her subjects, and indeed, for all the fair people of the Middle Kingdom, whose era she feared was coming to its end. And it was. Their brilliant art, their shining beauty, their power, and their glory were flickering and fading like firefly lights against the dawn, for the time of man had begun. Man, the unbelieving and unbelievable. Man, who hates and fears himself, and thus despises every living thing. Man, the hewer of trees and spoiler of streams, whose fields and roads and walls are of a straight and natural geometry, who taught the very beasts to be dumb, fierce, clever, heavy-treading man, who with his weapons of forged iron had lately murdered, just for sport, what was believed to be the last and irreplaceable dragon. Word of Savanelli's success and of the Spanish exodus ran like foxfire across the dying Middle Kingdom. Somewhere in the west were golden beaches, deep green woods, still pools, dark caves, bottomless rivers, topless mountains of fairy land. The French were the first to follow. The tall, proud Hadas of Spain had already departed, however reluctantly, with their diminutive domestic relatives, the duennes. From France came the sturdy seafaring cohorts of Brittany, the nomadic shape-shifting Lutens of Normandy, Dames Blanches and Dames Verts, coquettish maidens from the river valleys of the Aquitaine, Loubscrew from the forests. All these found refuge from the onslaught of man upon the chill and rocky northern coast of the newfound land across the sea, forsaking the suntanned Riviera, water dracs, playful as porpoises, and the languid, amorous fadas found contentment upon the hot southern shores of the New World, amidst pink, long-legged birds and high, swaying palms. In England, the erstwhile high-honored court of the fairy queen was now much diminished. Her Majesty, Mab herself, and many of her subjects, pixies, hobgoblins, and boggarts alike, had shrunk to tiny size. Robin had been exiled to Sherwood. Right gladly did all that company hear the news of a haven in the west, and right swiftly they embarked therefore. The venerable Dutch merchant empire of the lowland Alven was also in its autumn. Their sailor servants, the Claveter Monikins, made ready their broad-bottomed boats, and away they sailed, to settle peaceably, at length, among rolling hills by a wide river, richly lined with cliffs and trees. Clear running creeks they found there, and wildcats in abundance. Wherefore they named their new home Carskill, Wildcat Creek, from ire that most distressful country, the conquered and humbled native gentry, the Cid, set forth to follow in Brandon's path, accompanied on board by such of their lower-class countrymen as the shoe-making leprechauns, and the endlessly joking, drunk, and disorderly Frederics. Observed a mortal Irish observer, Sir William Wilde, the fairies are retiring one by one from the habitations of man to the distant islands where the wild waves of the Atlantic raise their foaming crests. Lost to the Scottish Highlands, then and evermore was the Seelie court, the fair folk known as Troes, Fackins, Brownies, and people o' peace. As the tale is told, only to children marked their passing, as the wee creatures rode their shaggy ponies down to the sea. The mortal lad called out to the last rider, "What are ye, little Manny? And where are ye going?" "Not of the race of Adam," said the creature, turning for a moment in his saddle. "The people o' peace shall never more be seen in Scotland." Hugh Miller of Edinburgh. Their rough-hewn barks were piloted west by Silkies and Kelpies, over the sea, beyond Skye, to a Nova Scotia, down ice-green fjords of Scandinavia, and away to the land of the Eagle. Then sailed the Elf-folk in their terrible proud longships, the Nissen and the Tomtra, those hairy farm fairies, grims from the stone towers, squat, squinting wood, and river trolls. And, in the bows, faces set to the cold salt spray, the elves themselves, yellow hair streaming in the wind, blue-gray eyes fixed on the far horizon. Of all the folk of Jotunheim, only some of the kobolds stayed behind. And these proud tree fairies were soon and forever turned to wooden playthings for the children of man, guided on its stately way by the Rhine maidens, a great fleet bearing away strong thew dwarfs from the mines, plump and hairy Wichteln from the fields, the handsome Wilden Fraulein from the marshes, and red-capped Hutchin from the Black Forest forsook Germany and her neighbors for the new world far across the sea. Then from the east, from the far marches, from the wide snowy steppes and boundless fertile plains of Russia traveled the native fair folk, Vasily, Poleviki, Demivi, and Vli. The Leshy abandoned the forest tops of Tartary, the Rusialki rose up from the river beds, and all followed the forest fathers and moss maidens across the winter prairie to the Black Sea shore and onto waiting ships. Together they emigrated away to the west, cradling Italy, calm as the clouded moon, dark as Tuscan wine, lay the Tyrrhenian, inmost sea of the Middle Kingdom. Upon its sleeping surface bobbed a motley flotilla of Faletti. Aboard were the Monticello, those rotund and randy monks of Naples, the Lincetti, horse-teasing sprites from Lucca, snickering Baraboas, the peeping Toms of Venice, the gay Farfarelli, so dear to Dante, of Florence, Parmadina, the fat gangsters from Genoa, stowed away in the hold, even hardy Salvani and Aguin, cliff dwellers from the wintry Piedmont. All the airless night they drifted, until dawn showed over the Apennine hills. Suddenly, the impetuous Samoscazo, Winefall Eddy of Sardinia, filled their sails, and away they sped toward the Pillars of Hercules. Now, in the eternal whirlwinds, above Persia's mountains of Kaf, appeared a caravan of magic-wrought carpets, and upon them rode the banished elder spirits of Arabia, monstrous Deves, desert-born giants, the Peri, bright and beautiful as starlight, and the Wish Groningen, formed of smokeless fire, at last free from man's lamps and bottles, exiled by the law of the prophet. All these too sought and found the sunset land, crimson flowers, crystal fountains, sweet-scented winds, an earthly paradise. Then, in their airy wake, out of Nubia and Ethiopia and the jungles beyond the mountains of the moon, flew high and swift by deeper magic still the fairy spirits of Africa, the shy indwellers of every Asheron, baobab, and mahogany, wing friend of each river, of every bird, beast, and insect, were wafted away on the southern trades, and fluttered down, like a windfall of butterflies, far from the tribal warfare and slave traders, upon the islands of the Caribbees and the New World's eastern shore, and from Hellas itself. Then vanished at last the few surviving centaurs, satyrs, and nymphs, sad scattered remnants of the glory that was Greece. They were transported, willed away to the islands of the blessed that Hesperides by the final act of their dying patron, Pan. Thus, we are told, did the first age of the old world come to its end, with the departure of 12 nations of faerie. The hill folk of Scotland and Ireland were, in fact, near cousins and of a single nation. And no sooner had the 12 established themselves in the new world than they were joined there by a 13th. On the first morning of the first spring day, appeared, shining in the air, slender, golden people. Their garments were of richest silk, filigreed with serpents and flowering vines of silver. A tall, laughing archer was among them, Princey, the Wanderer, bearing the great bow with which he had shot dead 9 blazing suns. At his side his golden mother, Shi Wang Mu, beautiful as the moon, who bore in her hands the peaches of immortality, and Sao Shen also, the home-loving imp, his laughing mouth smeared with honey, together with the multitude of shy, delicate maidens, and bright-eyed, bearded sages. From impossibly distant Cathay they had traveled, bringing with them to safety, to the wonder and joy of every fairy, what all had thought never to see again, a fire-breathing and terrible, winged and wonderful dragon.